Raise the hands. I love that part of the song. Hello, my friends. It's Andy coming to you live from Orange County, California. And I have my co-host,
Hedia, and I'm coming to you from Ventura County.
Ventura County. I always want to say something else. I don't know why. Oxnard County or something. I don't know what goes on with me, but I always hesitate to say Ventura County because that seems so far away.
It is.
You are so far away. But we are here. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to pull you down. I meant to change this. There we go. I want everybody to see your hairdo. Look at that hairdo you got going on.
It is beautiful out here. It is 85 degrees and there's a breeze. Oh my God. I just want to sit outside.
Just want to go to the beach.
I just want to go to the beach.
I'm sorry. We can't go to the beach. We have more important things to do later on. I'm going to come out your way a little bit to do something very special. So we have a pretty good devotional today. It actually caused us to have an entire show, just the two of us, before we even got started. Hopefully I can remember all the things we talked about and remember to talk about some of those issues. But it's a doozy. So let's just go ahead and get to it. I was going to say something else, but I'm going to not say that right now. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So I'll bring it up, make it our primary screen there. And, oh man, look at that picture. That picture is so beautiful. I was wondering whether that sun is actually been put in before or put in after that picture, but it's so beautiful. I love that shot. The title is, Do You Walk in White? And the reference here that Oswald brings up, the passage is from Romans 6:4. We were buried with him, that just as Christ was raised from the dead, even so we also should walk in the newness of life. No one experiences complete sanctification without going through a white funeral, the burial of the old life. If there has never been this crucial moment of change through death, sanctification will never be more than an elusive dream. There must be a white funeral, a death with only one resurrection, a resurrection into the life of Jesus Christ. Nothing can defeat a life like this. It has oneness with God for only one purpose, to be a to be a witness for him. Have you really come to your last days? You have often come to them in your mind, but have you really experienced them? You cannot die or go to your funeral in a mood of excitement. Death means you stop being. You must agree with God and stop being the intensely striving kind of Christian you have been. We avoid the cemetery and continually refuse our own death. It will not happen by striving, but by yielding to death. It is dying, being baptized into his death. Have you had your white funeral, or are you piously deceiving your own soul? Has there been a point in your life which you now mark as your last day? Is there a place in your life to which you go back in memory with humility and overwhelming gratitude so that you can honestly proclaim, yes, it was then at my white funeral that I made an agreement with God. This is the will of God, your sanctification. Once you truly realize this is God's will, you will enter into the process of sanctification as a natural response. Are you willing to experience that white funeral now? Will you agree with him that this is your last day on earth? The moment of agreement depends on you. Oh, man, that is such a... I mean, there's so much. We unpacked so much prior, and now I even have more.
Right? I do too.
The whole thing. And so I'm going to be cruel, Hedia, and ask you to give us your thoughts first about what it is. Maybe something new that we didn't talk about, or do you want to go through some of the stuff we talked about?
Well, okay, so leaving Islam for me was instantaneous, and I knew that life was dead. But when I came home from my baptism, I did a very public baptism at a church that where the pastor was the first Christian pastor that I had followed. And when I came home, there was one night in particular where the Lord had instructed me to remove a whole bunch of possessions in my house. And it was trash bags filled with all kinds of stuff. So it was a really, really dramatic day because I gave an oath to rid my life of those things. And it was an extraordinary day. And from that day forward was what I guess I could describe as a sanctification process, where I was learning the parts of me that he made clear were dead, parts of me he was going to rebuild. So it definitely, the process has been continual and difficult. And I wrote a blog post once and I called it the pain of transformation. So that's for sure been my reality for like 3 years now since I've been walking with Christ. But that one day is what I would describe as my white funeral.
Now you just slipped in the word difficult. And so I want to focus on that because that is the thing, right? That's the thing that keeps people from dying in the form that this devotional is talking about, not really like physically dying or committing suicide. I want to make sure that's very clear. But you said difficult, but how can you describe the difficulty that you had? What were some of the things that you went through in that difficult time?
Substances. There were no alcohol, no smoking, certain prescription medicine, all of it had to go. And celibacy, complete, as I tell people, turning the furnace off. So complete and utter celibacy. And so at times, all of those issues were difficult because when I was tired or I was bored, whatever it was, one of them would trigger back up. And it was an oath I had taken and I wasn't going to go back on it. So it hurt. Sometimes it hurt. So I'm not going to lie. It was not easy.
But worth it.
Worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't want to forget that part. The biggest addiction that I had was with coffee, with caffeine. Not with coffee, with caffeine. When I was a detective coming out of patrol at Anaheim Police Department, I was drinking coffee all morning long, like about the biggest jumbo Java you could get at 7-Eleven or wherever I was getting it at the time. And then following that up with Coke and sodas and iced tea. And that would last throughout the day. And then I would finish off with more coffee. And I remember the day in detectives where I was having palpitations and, I was shaking and I go, you know what? It's probably not a good thing that I'm having this much caffeine. And this has nothing to do, well, maybe a little bit to do with what you were talking about, but I remember the day that I shut it off. I just said, okay, no more caffeine in my life. And it was, like you said, it was so painful. I was so shocked that that addiction that I had to caffeine was as bad as it was, because it felt like I was getting off of heroin. I had headaches. I felt nauseous. It was not easy, and I knew at the point. But that was the thing. When I knew that how bad it felt, I knew that it was important to get through it. At least I had that mindset that I wasn't going to go, you know what, this is not worth it. I'm going to go back and drink caffeine. Like, how bad is it drinking caffeine? Well, for me, it was everything because I wasn't sleeping. I had heart palpitations. I knew that couldn't be good. My blood pressure was through the roof. All the anxieties that I was going through was increased because of the caffeine I was having. So, but I remember it being so painful. And it was like a week long, like 7 days, if not 10 days, something like that. It was a long time. It wasn't just like one night. So I can't imagine all the things that you just talked about.
Thank God it wasn't caffeine. I thank God he left me with caffeine because I don't know what I would have done because everything else was removed. So I was just like,
wow.
I was home on the floor just crying, just crying because I was so miserable because there was and I mean, that's what I think increased the power of the Holy Spirit, being able to hear his voice. And that's what he told me. You won't hear my voice if you don't eliminate all of these things. And so that's what increased the power because I was left with nothing but him. Yep.
Well, for me in the devotional, there's so much. I mean, I guess I wish I could just focus on one thing, but I'm going to have difficulty doing that. But it's the old life, getting rid of that old life of, going to Vegas and hanging out with the guys and getting drunk and not remembering, hey, could you tell me what I did last night? I forget. Did I really? How come my clothes are all wet? That doesn't make any sense. Like there was unfortunately a lot of those times. But I was not, doing horrible things other than because most of it I was within walking distance, and I'm pointing to a friend of mine's house down the street. Those were the last bastions of my debauchery, and then maybe really quick relationships with women that I don't remember their names and that kind of stuff. So sorry, I'm bringing this up in front of you, but there were times where they'd say, well, who were you with last night? I go, I don't know, but she was really cute.
I don't know, but she was really cute.
And that kind of stuff. And I'm smiling, laughing. It's debauchery. It's all the things that the Bible says not to do, right? And not being involved in doing stuff like that. And it became one of those things that kind of almost like a sport. Right. And that's not what love is supposed to. It's not supposed to be.
That's exactly it.
And
it was
so
game. It was a game.
Yeah. And so the friends that I'm close with, they know what I'm talking about because we hung out together and did stuff like this together. But that was fortunately a long time ago. And so now it brings me. But it's not that it wasn't always there. It's always been one of those things. Hey, I should go back out again. I should go hang out, right? The desire or the thought to go back out there and do it again was the thing that still had to die. It's not just the actually doing it. That's one part of it. But to rid yourself of that desire and truly realizing that is the old Andy or whoever, Hedia, that is dead. It's not even an option really to think about wanting to do it again. If it's going to die, it has to die. It has to be like, okay, I'm done with that. That's not even you laugh at it now, like how stupid. And I was just we were talking about this off camera. How stupid was it to go to LA Live, like I talked about with Hedia off the camera, is that I would go there hoping maybe I'm going to run into somebody that I can be with and for that night or whatever, but also spending $150 on $15 beers or $25 drinks. Right. And it just like you really begin to think about it, like how silly is that? Like now it is, but just maybe a year ago, a year and a month ago, whenever that was, because I just saw a memory come up that it was a year ago that I was in Salt Lake City. I think it's only been a year. I thought it was like a year and a half. So if I look back at that a year and 2 months, a year and a day ago, I was thinking, God, I can't wait till the next time I go and have this moment of debauchery. But now to totally die, and I hope this is making sense, that I don't even have that thought. Like it doesn't even cross my mind. Like how stupid would it be to go out and spend $150 on alcohol in one night, plus and then a meal, and then hoping that you're going to go home with somebody or bring somebody home. Like that's not even before Hedia. I'm not just saying this before Hedia.
Now with Hedia, we'd like to think so.
I got that is not, I got to stop doing that. And then kind of lingering on with still trying to fight some of those feelings of, sexual entices and things like that. That was for me, that was the last part to die. And, was the most difficult to get rid of because of, I don't know, of who I was apparently, or what was going on in my life. Now, if you don't mind, I want to now transition, and I hope. And it wasn't easy. I'm like Hedia. It was hard, it was difficult. It wasn't easy. It kept coming back. In the moments of weakness, when they come, when you're sad or depressed or you're lonely, and then that's when you have to fight off those demons. The demon comes in and knows that you're weak, right? The devil knows you're weak and says, "Oh, I see you're a little bit sad. I see you're a little bit lonely. Let's go out and drink. Let's go out and find a woman to make us feel better about ourselves." And she, no matter what she looks like, it doesn't matter, right? Like it's just like the devil says that, starts throwing stuff at you, and you go, "Yeah, I could just go out and just do this tonight, and then I'll stop tomorrow." What you have to do is die to all of those thoughts and be powerful against the devil and those things that are being thrown at you. All right, so go ahead.
Can I add one thing? I said I had a person of weakness, and so I would. Were all those things, instead of finding random strangers, it was a one person that I was like constantly entertaining, going back to, and I would call my accountability friends, and I'd be like, "Listen, I need you to talk me off a ledge. I need you to explain to me why this is bad. Like, just run me through it. And they would do it, and they would do it. And I was like, because if I could get through the moment, if I could pray and cry and talk to somebody who would get me through the moment, it would pass. So I encourage people that are going through that kind of change and transformation, have accountability friends, have partners in your walk that will help you through it.
And that was actually really good because I don't know if you knew this is what I was going to talk about, but there's a little bit possibly of a few of us, and I'm just going to say us because I don't want to blame everybody else. I'm perfect. You guys are the ones that need the work. I don't want to say that, but there's a few of us that may be in this moment of the pandemic where we've been locked down. It's kind of like being in prison, right? It's kind of like being in solitary confinement, where you can't misbehave, you can't participate in debauchery, right? We can't. I mean, it's not easy to go find a place where we can go hang out with a bunch of people and get drunk. It's just not. It's harder. I mean, you could probably still do it, but it's more difficult, and so that's what's keeping us. And so we're thinking that. Well, look at that. We've been good for about 6 months. You know, I'm good. The old really didn't die because you're in lockdown. What's going to happen when and if things open up again? You need to be sure that it is dead. You need to make sure that it is not because of being in solitary confinement that you are suddenly, I have died to my sins. I've died to the old Eddie. And so be in the Word. Do what Hedia said. Attach yourself. Is that the right word? You find people that are your accountability partners, or will be your accountability partners, and make sure that is happening, so that you can be sure that they're holding you accountable to that dead body of your old self, that has been done. Because that's the first thing I thought about. I don't know why that I thought about. Well, yeah, that's easy to say right now.
Well, that's what I asked you offline. I was like, okay, so but when COVID's lifted, or if it is lifted, which ones are really still a risk? Like, you know, how do we know which ones are going to just resurface? But God is faithful. So
yeah. So thankfully for me, what I was talking about, hey, most of the things, and I can identify, you know, most of the things that I would say were the debauchery parts of my life was over a year ago. So it was prior to the COVID lockdown. But one thing that I loved before COVID and all the stoppage of sports is that I had a love of sports. I love sports. I love competition. I love my teams. And that would pull me out into wherever, Buffalo Wild Wings, to go there with a bunch of people for the Stanley Cup finals and the playoffs and things like that. And then in those moments with friends, you can start drinking a little bit too much and that kind of stuff. So those are the only things that I could think of that will be the test to see where I go back. The good news for me is that I'm a very patriotic person, and I hated the kneeling for the flag. I despised the issues with Black Lives Matter and the players wearing Black Lives Matter on their jerseys. For me, however your feelings are about that, I'm telling you, that turned me off to sports. So it's not just the lockdown; it is the patriot in me that turned off sports more than because of the lockdown. So. That's a little bit stronger for me. I love this country, and you step on the flag, and I don't like you. You become the enemy, as you probably know, as you've seen from some of my posts. So for me, that's kind of the thing. I really would tell you about anything that I think may come back once all this is lifted. But at this point, I can't think of anything. I am so in love with Jesus Christ right now. I can't even tell you. I'm so. I can't believe I'm getting teary-eyed. I'm so passionate about this walk that I've been on since I've been in the devotional and meeting Hedia, and what we have in common, and how fantastic it is, and how fun it is, and how much more in love I am with a woman than I've ever been in my entire life because of Jesus Christ. So I don't know. I don't know that anything could surpass that. I don't see it. What about you?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I mean, I told you one of them, like I have a shopping issue. I engage in retail therapy. And so hopefully that won't come back too strong. But yeah, the rest of them died because mine died, a year before COVID. So I've been in this 3 years. And so the really hard parts were 2 years in.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty confident and trusting God that they're not coming back.
Yeah, and the I'm gonna say this, and so I don't know if I get the sexual proclivities
Yes.
can now just be focused in one direction. Right? I mean, right? We got to be honest. I mean, we're adults here. We're talking about adult things, and then the Bible talks about sex. The Bible talks about
We had our marriage counselor talk about sex.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was like amazing. Like, yeah, it was way more than what we anticipated.
Yes. Yes.
But why not take all that sexual tension and energy, and instead of spreading it out, focusing it on one thing? I mean, that would be important to do, I think.
One thing or one person?
Well, you know what I'm talking about. I just one person, obviously.
Deborah's laughing at us because we're blushing, apparently.
Yeah. But I'm believing that I've met my match in that area, and so that is going to be new. But let's have fun. I mean, you want to. I mean, the Bible said you couldn't have fun. Never said you couldn't have fun.
Four F's, as Captain Mark taught us.
Perfect. We got the 4 F's. What are the 4 F's, Hediya?
Faith, forgiveness, fun, and the R-rated F.
Yeah, you got to have the 4 F's.
Married couples.
Married couples. Yeah, fun, faith, and what?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
He says that every marriage depends on. We added the 4th, but the 3 F's. The 3 F's are faith, of course, putting Jesus Christ first. Forgiveness, which is just grace, we'll get it wrong. We're sinners. We'll have bad days, and just having tons of grace and forgiveness for one another, and fun.
And fornication.
Fornication. There's a responsible word for it.
But well, that's the one we used. I don't know what you're talking about, Hediya.
But fornication is what you're doing when you're in sin, isn't it, Deborah? Like, so once you are a married couple, it's no longer fornication.
I don't know. Let me see.
I mean, I'm rarely wrong. I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Well, you're right. Oh my God, why are you so sneaking smart? That drives me crazy. I think I've had enough of your smartness. It says sexual intercourse between people not married to each other.
Yes.
So, Deborah, you're wrong.
We intend to do legal 4th F.
She said, "Oh no." Have you been fornicating, Deborah?
No. Deborah's in a loving, wonderful marriage.
Yes, for sure. So, wow, this really took a turn.
That was your fault.
But we're still on. I mean, we're still on point with what it means. The old self has to die. We now focus. We're going to focus we no longer fornicate, either one of us. When we get married, we are going to make mad, passionate love because we love each other, and it's going to be focused on each other. Wow, we just went cray cray. Girlfriend, you are too dang smart. I don't know why I went to that accent, but that's what it looked like, right? Okay, well, then friskiness.
I mean, to be on a serious note, when the Lord took a vow of celibacy for me, I'm going to be kind of subtle about this, but furnace off. So whether there was another person involved or alone, furnace off. And I have to tell you, like when I've talked to friends about it, that was really, really important, because the only way I could remove that from derailing me from my walk was to completely remove it. And he spoke to me so profoundly so many times about why that was important. Because oftentimes I hear my friends talk about, like, they suddenly start to date somebody, and once there's a physical intimacy involved, even if it's not sexual intercourse, once there's a physical intimacy involved, their Holy Spirit voice gets a little bit quiet and the flesh increases, and it leads them to make choices and go down roads that God does not intend you to go down. And if you, in my experience, when I was restrained, when my physical body was not involved, I was able to terminate things much quicker, because it was literally just, me talking to myself and hearing God and being like, okay, I'm out. And I highly recommend that for somebody who's not married to cold turkey.
Turn the furnace off.
Turn the furnace off.
Well, I'm going to tell you right. I'm going to bring a match to your pilot light is what I'm going to do.
You do.
Sorry, I had that in my head. I could not drop it. It had to come out. I had to.
Thank God for small favors.
All right. So I think we hit all the points. I mean, there's other things that came to mind. I'm going to bring it back to a little bit of reality here. The one thing that I related it to is to what a couple things, and I just want to finish up with this stuff, is that I played a little bit of Pastor Jack, and oh my God, is it Amir?
Amir.
Okay, gosh, I didn't want to get it wrong again. When they were talking about, before they went on the stage, they said, to live is Christ and to die is, yep. And so there's a little bit of that too. When I was reading it, that I was thinking, I go, some people are afraid of this concept of dying to yourself and that kind of stuff. Are you willing to do this? And there's always this. I mean, I don't want to die to myself. I like that old Andy. I like a little bit of him being around. Like it's like a teddy bear that they keep hanging on to. But I'm telling you that you could think. And I just want to finish up with this. You can think that old self is you're going to miss it. You're going to miss that old dirty teddy bear, that old dirty blanket that you used to rub when you were a kid and trying to go to sleep, or the binky that you used to suck on. Whatever that is, that thing is that always that security, that you love that old thing that's been laying around because it's always there. I'm telling you, once you get rid of it, it opens up an entirely different world that you did not even know existed. And when they talk about the leaving the darkness and then living in the light, that really is what it's like doing. And I want to encourage you just to trust me and to listen to what I'm telling you. That I have a person who lived in the dark for most of his 58 years. Living in the light is way better and way more fun and way more satisfying when you see it in your children's eyes, and that they can't call you on stuff. They go, well, Dad, you do it. And that was some of the things that would happen on occasion. Well, Dad, you used to, or you did, or you are doing, right? That it's gone. The hiding your phone, right? And not letting people see, what you're texting or secretly doing stuff. All that, lifting that burden. Oh, that's a good word. Lifting that burden is so freeing. It's so spectacularly freeing. And having now lived that way for over a year now is just like, it is so good. It is so much better. And I have to share with you that getting rid of that blanket, getting rid of that old self that you keep hanging on to because you think that it's going to just, you don't want to let go of it yet. I'm telling you, it's well worth it. The living in the light. It's so much better. Yeah. You were going to say, Eddie.
No, I love that, because I think that that's something I'm experiencing every day with you, is that when I stop letting the enemy keep me captive to my flesh, there's such joy and contentment and happiness that comes from the simplest things that we do together, whether we go to the park or we bake a baked potato together, or things that, so much so that my daughter looks over at me sometimes and she's like, oh, look at you playing housewife. Like, it's so it's so funny to her to watch my transformation, that I am so happy doing the simplest things. And that's purely from the Lord. That's purely from the death to the old self and a life in Christ. Your sound is gone.
I was coughing. I didn't want you guys to hear me dying over here. We should always have a sprinkle of ourselves, and that's the one thing too. She just reminded me of myself. It doesn't mean that you are not gonna know. I mean, the parts of you that are good, like my sense of humor. I'm so freaking funny, and I can sing. No, I can't sing. I can dance. No, I can't dance. But the good things of who you are as a person always remains. It's the stuff that causes you to live in darkness that needs to die. That's no good. That has to go. That has to die and has to be buried. And you have to have that white funeral that it's talking about in the devotional. But the little bit about ourselves, it's good. Right on. Look, I wouldn't get rid of anything that I'm looking at right now on the other screen there. I mean, that's
no, he remakes it. Like, my strength was always an issue. I used my strength to intimidate, manipulate, hurt people. And the Lord's like, okay, I'm going to take that strength and I'm going to completely restructure it. And you will use your strength for forbearance, self-control, to lift other people up instead of crushing them. And it's strength, but it's strength in Christ. And it's completely different. It's a completely different experience.
Awesome. All right. I think that's a positive note. We got out of the sex talking onto something, more.
Sex is positive too.
Appropriate. All right, my friends, we love you so much. Thank you for watching. Hetty and I have a big weekend. We're not going to tell you what it is, but we'd appreciate your prayers, not because we're dying, but because we are living. And so pray for our life. We have a big weekend together, and so we would both appreciate your prayers of goodness upon us. That would be great. Agreed?
Absolutely. And we pray for your goodness in your life this weekend. Enjoy the little things. Enjoy the gift of life. Our friend Deborah was given a new life. And I was telling her, enjoy that sweet, sweet gift that God has given you, and that we should all enjoy that and just enjoy the little things of love and joy that we have around us.
Awesome. All right, my friends, we love you. We thank you for your time spent with us and allowing us to kind of just share our story. And hopefully our story is helping you with your story. And we love you. And Hedia says,
God bless you.